Welcome to the Gigless Podcast, Season 2, a podcast showcasing the works and talents of those who lost their gigs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This podcast will feature a range of creatives from the tri-state area who are young visionaries and who contribute to their craft despite the recent events that have happened. Join us today for a very special episode where Remi and Dane reflect on the year. This episode features the origins of the Gigless Podcast, the favorite moments and challenges that we faced throughout the year, as well as expressing our gratitude for everyone who's been a part of the community. Thank you for your continued support, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Gigless. It is our birthday/anniversary of making the show. It has been one wild ride of a year, and we are going to discuss it. And it is my guest today is our producer, Dane, and me, your host, Remi Leibovic. So we are going to be discussing how, our favorite moments, challenges moving forward, and how we just got through the quarantine. So take it away.
I'm laughing because it seems like a year. I remember the day we started the podcast. I remember it just being like the first phone call, which I'll get into in a second. But it's so weird because I catch myself going to the Gigless discography and seeing the YouTube stuff and seeing the RSS feed and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, wow, we did a whole lot. I mean, we have about almost 30 episodes up until this point, and that's 30 stories and just a lot of really great artists and the sheer strength of it all. And to be honest, I didn't think that a year ago it would be anything like this. I was kind of hoping that it was like, Gigless is going to be like, 2-3 months. So, that'd be a nice, thing. So we may get like 10 episodes or so. And here we are. And it's been this crazy like journey. And I mean, we'll see what comes up. But so I remember lying down in my bed and getting a phone call from our lovely host, Remi. She says, I want to start a podcast. Let's start a podcast. I'm like, no, there's like this archetype that, white men in their 20s go through where they just become this like, I'm going to either be a coffee connoisseur, I'm going to make beer, or I'm going to have a podcast. And I got stuck with the podcast role. And I was like, son of a bitch, man. But
coffee connoisseur moment.
Yeah.
Like you flew over that because you definitely didn't.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still. Yeah. I still got my French press. I still got all my stuff. But the I've learned so much about myself through podcasting and also you. I mean, you're vibing for all those who can't see it, but Remi's dancing.
I am vibing.
Yeah, like we did it. Like this is the celebration of a year, and who knows where else of a very interesting journey and a very special creation. So this wasn't all my doing though. This is also your part. So your origins of it, like what was going on in your head when you made that first phone call?
I was just like, my idea of reason why I wanted to start a podcast was the idea of archiving like how this would affect creative people and how it would affect, people who are performers, people who are artists. Like the typical gig economy, like, yeah, people think about Lyft and Uber and like DoorDash and all the apps that you can work off of, but no one really understands like the fact that like all artists, even people on Broadway, like everything is contract and gig and on a seasonal basis. It's not full-time permanent. Those roles do exist out there, but they're very, very like gate kept, and hard to obtain, and people stay in those roles till they die, or retire. So like a lot of the entertainment industry and the performance industry and music, art, every creative outlet industry that you want to go down, that's all reliant on gigs. So, and I've mentioned the story 1,000 times, but it's just so prolific to me is when I went on my Facebook app and everything that I had RSVP'd to was just canceled, and just scrolling through all of the cancellations in that moment. And it was just like, what, how as artists do we go through that? And it's also the idea of access with the podcast, is that like we both wanted to tell these stories of people who had lost their gigs, who really practice at their craft, that really try hard and work hard and like strive for that successful professional creative career and lifestyle. And I thought, since I have a degree where my digital studies major, where I had to like think about digitally archiving things, think about how the internet plays such a role in all our lives, for the fact that we have access to things that maybe beforehand we didn't. And now if people ever in the future truly want to look back and see like, oh, how did this affect the industry, like they will have an archived account from the people themselves who lost these gigs and who went through that turmoil, and how they coped, literally how they coped with it, how they got through it. And just again, this, like, not to take these things such as the arts and music and performance and writing and all these creative outlets, like not to take them for granted. Because remember, I was thinking about this morning, remember for that time, and like from March to like May, TV stopped. Like television itself was so bad. Like everybody was on a Zoom call. You're just watching Zoom calls. Like even the news, like you were just watching, the weatherman from his bedroom, or the people, like the team.
Yeah,
in their own houses. Like there was a quote unquote cooking segment, I remember, and it was like in this chef's house, but he didn't know how to, like he didn't have a camera crew, so there was a lot of audio and pickup in the background from his kids, and it was just like this.
yeah.
And it's like those are all photographers, filmmakers, camera and those people like that you always like take for granted, like those are the people that make it not suck.
Yeah. Well, what I'm, you bring that up, and I find that there's two very interesting things. Is one, it's like just how raw the art is. Like I have friends who, they've made art, like albums specifically during quarantine, and their reflections during quarantine, and it's a very like just the heaviness inside the lyrics and the music is just all there, because it's like this is a person who is dealing with all these outside forces, and just so much, so the art itself becomes much more complex and much more meaningful and relatable, because you and I as artists can be like, oh wow, like yeah, I know how that felt, but it's also like, look at how crazy it is that like arts really are, how many jobs that they provide, and how essential it is to be a part of a team, and how not only does it give back into society, where it's like, oh, like look, like we're contributing and we're making it meaningful, but it's also like, look, like we have jobs and unions and contractors, and this is where the money is coming from.
And I just want to say this too, there's this flyer that's been circulating around for the last few months about how important what professions are important to society. And I guess it had the audacity to say that the arts is only like 10% important to the society. I'm okay. Like,
that's cute.
Me, but the fact that Netflix had, was available, and Hulu was available, and video games were available, and people were, sketching, people that didn't have to be on the front lines, people that weren't considered essential workers, but like, lost their jobs, and like, were stuck at home essentially. All those people, like they found solace primarily through art, by creating art. Like I saw all
Yeah.
these people that I know for a fact that, like, I saw people that like were in the finance world or in just the very corporate world, and they lost their jobs due to the coronavirus, and they went back and they started, doodling, they started doing art, they started trying to learn an instrument, like they went to the creative side. So when I see that like infographic, hovering around, just the fact that like the way that we could communicate to people what the vaccine is and what is, how how social distancing helps and how wearing your mask helps, like those are all infographics. Those weren't just like, pulled out of the air. Those were designed by someone, like a graphic designer and an illustrator and a scientist all sat down together to create that to help people. So like the fact that someone had the audacity to say like, oh, the arts doesn't count towards society. I was like, the arts is the only reason why we're all sane at this point.
Oh yeah.
And
No,
like
there's
kept under control, like in the sense that like, under control in the sense that like, they're more mindful and present in their day. They're practicing, you wake up and you have the time to learn how to play guitar now. So you go and play guitar, and
yeah.
have the time to go and sketch now. So you go and sketch.
Well, that's the sense of self.
Right.
Like that's like the set. Like, look, like what's the point of it all if I'm not doing the thing that I want to do? And it may seem like a very privileged thing, but it's more of like how are you allowing yourself to be attuned to yourself? Are you prioritizing that? And because of the quarantine, there wasn't like we had to get up and go somewhere. It was like I have to stay here. And a lot of times it was very, very uncomfortable for people. So for them to combat that, they had to look to the arts, for that kind of stuff. I also want to bring back the infomercial type thing, the infograph. There's a really cool website, Science is Beautiful, I think. And what that shows is it's like arts based, uh, resources and stuff like that. But aside from that, it's just like showing these very, very important information that's, easily to digest in the arts medium. It's like, that's what we need. We don't need like these like boring black and white graphs. We just need something that captures the attention and, makes you want to look at it and makes you want to look into it more and makes it less like intimidating. It's like, look, this captures your eyes, and it's the same material. It's the same data, but the data has now it's more easily to consume. It's more, like I think it's just a better way of reaching people. But you can't. But that's what the arts contribute.
Right. And I think that definitely one of my favorite moments of the time was just I started really, I was doing this pre-quarantine. Like in early 2020, I was keeping a gratitude journal and doing like, mindfulness journaling and stuff, like, anyone that can list like, list 3 things that you're grateful for. And if you got food, shelter, and water, that's enough, like continue on. And that I really got into my journaling in this time. And I also got back to like, I found the things that I like. I found the things that I didn't like. And I just, I'm still like, working through it, especially as an artist whose career got impacted by this.
Yeah.
But
Yours, I remember yours was far more dramatic than mine. Mine was a quick like email. It's like, hey, that's it. No more students. And then trickling down type stuff. But you saw yours, like getting taken away each time. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Was I'm a graphic designer. For those of you that don't know, I do graphic design. I also specifically do graphic design for social media assets. So anything that's like anything that my clients want to put on their social media pages to like attract customers, like, ads, like infographics, or like, plot, like anything, right? Just like random social media content. I create that for my clients. And I had a list full of clients that were ready to onboard and start with me after the month of March. We were going to start in April, and they were gearing towards, like, you know, we were getting the contracts and everything ready for me to start, you know, April 1st on their work. And after, you know, the shutdown happened, they're like, we can't further continue this contract. We can't, you know, we don't know if we're going to be in business in the next few months, like, or even the next few weeks. Like, we're not deemed essential. We can't continue this contract. So there was just a period of time where I lost a lot of clients, and I was, you know, just kind of like in total disbelief, because I was riding on such a high that I was like, yes, I'm freelancing. You know, get all these people are interested in me. All these people are about to, you know, sign up with me.
Yeah,
Like,
and
this
you
is
just
about to
started
be
RCL,
really, yeah, I
right?
just started RCL Media, and it was about to be really real, where it was like getting money, getting checks, establishing, you know, I established my LLC. I had everything all set and proper to go. Like, no funny business, like, straight up, this is what I'm going to be dedicating, you know, 8 hours a day to. And it was all gone within like that weekend. It was just by that Monday, like, everything was just like, you know, and I had to like really sit down and take that in. And, you know, it was just this total, like, it was all existential, you know, because really getting into the nitty gritty of like, I can't control anything but myself. But this really annoys me that like, this is something that, like, you know, so just towards the end of the quarantine was when I was really like getting more into the meditation. And, you know, even during quarantine, like, I went, not the first few weeks, not the first month, but like towards the end of April and May, I started hiking like on a daily basis. I start because I live in a very wooded area. I have access to trails, and I'm very lucky for that. I started going hiking. You know, I'd keep my mask on, obviously. I would just go out, and, you know, I got really into my garden and gardening and doing yard work, and like trying to do these very physical things, because sitting inside and stewing is, for me, anybody that knows me, even you know me, like, that's not an option. Like,
No,
I'm
you're
always doing
very,
something,
you're
like,
very
just something.
like you got to get up and do something. Like at a moment's opportunity, it's just like, oh, like let's do this. And when Gigless was first starting, I really felt that too. It was like that energy that like I don't have that energy. This is all the things happening in my life, but it was like, oh, like it was a text message or something. It was like, hey, like let's do this, and then it's like, oh, like that
Literally why I
scheming.
called you. That's literally
Yeah,
why I called you, because I was like, I want to do this, but I need someone to do the audio, and I need someone to hold me accountable.
yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, I needed a partner who could hold me accountable and just be like, when's the next episode? What's the next thing? So we kind of held each other
Oh
accountable.
yeah. We have
And
a good like relationship
that's
with that.
Gigless. Honestly, doing Gigless, it gave me something to look forward to. And I'm a person of structure and schedule. So I knew that if I was interviewing someone at 5 o'clock that day to get all my shit done and get, you know, be up by a certain time that morning. And to anyone who's listening to this, you know, we haven't gotten paid a penny for this. We have this, Gigless has been a pure act of love for our community, the creative community in the tri-state area.
A
And
love letter to our friends, I like to think. Like it's like a love
yeah,
letter to like the friends in the community that we are a part of, you know.
and the friends that we made, because we made a lot of friends
Oh
doing
yeah.
this.
Oh
I met a
yeah.
lot of people that I would have never met had Gigless not happened. And also, it just gave me that, at least for me, I got a very good socialization out of it,
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh
it
yeah,
was
you're
all on Zoom.
yeah. If you guys, so Remi holds the social media stuff. So she's the one that does all those types of things. But I see all the messages. And let me tell you, man, I don't know a harder working person. It's just like bam, 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 just like full on chats with like three different people at a time and stuff like that. So like, you know, like we we get a lot of support from you guys, but we, you know, we respect that you guys are like us. You know, it's like this little hustler community. It's like, oh yeah, like let's do this, let's do this. And I think that that's what motivates me the most. It's like that accountability. It's like, like we have this and stuff, and it's hard. It's like it's hard to just like, get up and do the thing you want to do when, there's you could just lie down all day and stuff. But I think that what, looking back at the year, one of my favorite parts was just like, look, like we are building something. Like we're actively like, creating this type of community, and it's really exciting. I have a lot of friends who, they listen to the show and they're grateful to be a part of it. And I also have friends who just recently discovered Gigless, and I'm like, well, maybe I should probably be sharing this a little bit more. But there's just this like, it's a very relatable subject because it's just Gigless as is. It's a podcast of tri-state musicians, well, not musicians, but artists and creatives and stuff who have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And that very broad entry level type thing is what unifies like all of us. And I think that in a time where everything's all over the place and there's so much division, that it's just so nice to have something where it's like, hey, look, we're all in this together.
And it was nice to take a break, because that's another thing, was the fact that all of our episodes, regardless of who the guest was, their background, their, race, heritage, ethnicity, whatever was going on, in regards to the protests over the Black Lives Matter movement, the political Trump versus Biden, and everything else that was happening in the world. This Gigless was the podcast where these guests could come in and just talk about their craft and what influences their craft, what is happening. We had people who the current events in the world did influence their craft and did influence the stuff that they created. But then you also had people in the world that, we also had people who the world doesn't influence them. It's a very ethereal internal product that they make. And we were just able to give them that space and that platform because, at the beginning, people are like, what, why don't you have a fact checker? Or why didn't you have a fact checker? Things were changing. To anyone who's listening to this now, the stats, there was one consistent news source.
Search up the news articles from a year ago and compare them to where they are now. There is just so many moving parts. It was impossible. But the thing is that people could talk about themselves, and that was legitimate. And I felt as if the lived experiences of an individual that's paramount. And I felt, even as reviewing the episodes and stuff like that, I was like, oh well, how do we really make it a part of them? Like, should we bring in what's going on in the world and stuff like that? Should we do whatever? But I remember that we're artists. It may already be self-evident in the art in itself, and whatever art may provide for them, I felt as if we tried to give them.
Traumatizing. I especially the first couple episodes, if OG listeners are listening in, I asked questions like, before you even could get on the show, you had to tell me that you lost income, that you lost your source of income from this pandemic, from this tragedy, and that you were trying to adapt. Because here's the thing, a lot of our people on this show, they weren't just like this, one-off creative and that's it kind of person. No,
these were like artists who are consistent and who
5 gigs, 5 gigs consistently. Keep, and on top of that, being in their master's program, being in their, teaching,
just the working class musician and stuff like that.
Working class people who had multiple forms of income that were affected by this. And I wanted to document that because, it kind of will show you, anybody who says, artists don't work or people don't, whatever nonsense that comes from. I want you, if you ever meet someone like that and you're listening, tell them to listen to just any episode of this show. And you will, whether it's a writer, a performer, a musician, an artist, whatever it is, I promise you by the end of that episode that their perspective will be changed.
For me too, full disclosure, sometimes it's hard to just sit down all day after you've been working on a computer all day and to do an episode. I'm sorry, that's why sometimes the episodes are late. There's no filter here. But the thing is that every time
we're not perfect because and that's another thing is like,
but what I'm saying is this
point where it's not mentally healthy for us to be constantly looking at death.
Yes.
Death. Like that cycle.
Where I'm getting at is this: sitting down and listening to the stories of people who I knew and got to know on a deeper level, and just these incredible artists who I've never met before. The ingenuity, the strength, the resilience, the creativity that all of you guys have, and anyone who's interested in coming in, you're totally welcome to share those stories. But that's the thing, it was so inspiring to see how you guys did with, you guys are used to a certain type of space, a studio, an art gallery, some type of medium that you prefer, and to not have that, but yet find yourself, redefine yourself, and then make art even in a limited context. You guys are incredible. It's remarkable.
You guys are, the fact that y'all went virtual in such a successful manner is like, it is so incredible, and it's such a testament to the resilience of this creative community. And and I thank every single person who has ever been a part of our show. To go back to the thing about the income and the questions regarding income, what's been happening to you. So I thank you from the deepest part of my heart for being that vulnerable on a mic with us.
Oh yeah, with a stranger,
trusting us with
sharing your story. That's
with a stranger, with someone who's never met me in person, and to share with our community that thank you 1,000 times over, because that takes so much strength and resilience. And that's another thing is like, it is, art itself is such a great way to kind of just not escape, but just find sanctuary in the whatever world throughout time. Art's always been that, to find kind of sanctuary from the world, to kind of like escape reality, just if not for a moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, aside from that, I think that it's just, now we're going to enter in a new kind of way of looking at art, where it's like we're documenting a very, very, very tragic event that happened because of one, quarantine, but because of all these social injustices going on in the whole political movements that are taking place. I'm looking forward to seeing how artists in general are going to capture that moment and to say, like, look, like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, my kids are like, yo, dad, what was it like growing up during a pandemic? I'm like, well, child, it sucked. Yeah, it's the scary part. My child, yes. It's like, yes. But like, this is it. And then I can show them a song. I can shamelessly self-plug Gigless, like my page, child. But the just to like be like, look, like this happened. We're gonna look back at this, and there'll be generations and be like, well, how'd you guys do it and stuff. Well,
no, because that's the thing is, like, people don't understand this, but the Spanish flu, when that was a pandemic and when that was killing people, I believe that, I know for a fact that like Picasso's blue period was influenced by that, because he had a friend who had died. It, like, all these artists, all these people, for a time, art was super depressing. Why? Because everyone was dying from the Spanish flu, and no one really knew how to process it, because, unlike typhoid, unlike the Spanish flu, unlike
enter terminally sickening thing.
I thought my dog was here, because she's got to be a part of every episode. But
yes,
she's not.
actually, Yeah, we'll talk about that after this point because that's the
But
third
long
member.
story short, you can cut this. You could cut this out if it doesn't make it into the editing that pause. But long story short was that artists were capturing the effects, like the emotional effects of the Spanish flu, and you know, even typhoid. All of these things, artists have always been there to they've always been documenting the emotional effects of these like sicknesses and tragedies, but like, and I think that we're just doing the same but just in a podcast form.
Yeah, I mean, this is documentation. This is real stories. This is information. Like this is data. If somebody wants to do research, why wouldn't they look to this as an arts-based medium? As like this was actual events that have happened. There's a commonality of emotion and lived experiences that are going on, and it's like, well, then that's valuable information. And I'm hoping that the future, because we just talked about before, it's like everybody turns to arts because they like that's just the thing, it's just the human thing. But I'm hoping that arts become more of a staple, not only for like, oh, like expression and everybody should do it, but like, no, it's like, no, this is a valuable information here, this is documentation, this is real, this is data, this is evidence, this is big. It's so much more than just human expression. I feel like it's like this temporal like aesthetic that's just beyond is beyond words, because when you're deeply moved by somebody's work and stuff like that, how do you explain that? It's just, I think, growing up, I was like, music is the closest thing to magic, and it's like, yeah, I believe it. But I growing up, I'm like, well, arts really are, because how can you have such a profound response to a picture? How do you feel something when you hear, like music, or when you hear somebody's literature? Like I feel as if that is like, it's such a captivating thing, and it's like, I'm just hoping that because of quarantine, we can look in the future and say, like, look, like this happened to us, and that this is important. Then this is how we got through it, and this is how we're going to move forward with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to talk about the future, we could talk about how Gigless is going to move forward, and
Yeah.
what our plans are, because
We've invested everything into Dogecoin. We're going to the moon. Game stonks.
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 Actually, I did my taxes
Look
the
at
other day,
you.
and I got news for y'all.
What's up?
One of the questions they asked me was, "Did you make any virtual currency?" So they're coming for our bits. They're coming for the bits.
Bruh.
They want to tax the bits.
I got
that is legitimate advice, but they're trying to tax the bits. But for Patreon, which is the future of
oh my
Gigless.
God, Patreon.
Subscribe
to our OnlyFans.
Subscribe to our OnlyFans. Precisely. It's me. It's gonna be me and Dane
just screaming in a microphone.
Yeah, just screaming into a microphone, and then you can give us $50 or whatever.
I'm very happy that we didn't start Gigless with both of us. I don't think it would have gone anymore. We would have just fooled around in front of the microphone.
Oh yeah,
this is like, this is like, well, me and Remi, we're being professional and stuff like that. But this isn't me and Remi like at a party.
No,
this isn't me and Remi at a gig or something like that. This is just.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is that to those of you who went and read the lovely article,
back in September, October?
No, the article that was published by NJ.com.
Yeah. Which seems like so long ago.
Which seems like so long ago now.
Yeah.
For all of you who read that lovely article, thank you to Josh, who wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
And NJ.com for having us. #TogetherNJ.
Yes, sir.
All I'm going to say is that I had to dig for a photo of me and Dane looking presentable, because we had absolutely none. I could not, that photo is from like 5 years ago where I was getting an award and it was, the award ceremony.
Which is a funny story
Dane
too.
had to dress up to it, and all my friends came dressed up to it, and I was dressed up for it because the rest of the photos that we have, that's just like.
Oh, wait, no, tell the story about the award that you received.
Oh yeah, I got an award because I was an animation student at the time. I was supposed to get an award for the top and like the top animation student grade wise and stuff, like an award from the faculty, that like I had the best GPA in the arts or something like that. Anyway, the reason why I say or something like that is because I ended up receiving, I shook the hand of the people and they were like, by the way, it said an award for engineering. We messed up your award, so we're gonna have to mail you it, but you can take a picture with we'll just let you come on the stage for the ceremony, but just let you know, like, this says best student in engineering. I was like, wow. I was like, this isn't even really it, because people are like, oh, don't you want to take it with it open? I'm like, no, this is not my major.
It's like BCC messed up again, but we're not going to highlight that. But yeah, so that was that. There was also the oh man, the one even before that. It was probably, it's crazy to think it's like 8 years ago, which means it's almost going to be 10 years ago, which means that was a decade. What's going on with my life? But there's a picture of me and Remi with Paul, and we're headbanging, and we're at
PLR.
some gig. Yeah, we're in Long Branch. I'm like, oh my God, we went to go see Pyramada and stuff like that. And I just remember, like, that's my childhood. That's like every other week we were at a gig or something like that. And that's what to even, like, I guess to summarize, like, what gigs are to me, not only as a performer, but just as somebody who goes to it, it's like that's childhood memories and stuff like that. And that's what I'm moving forward. I'm hoping comes back. Maybe Gigless will have a concert. Who knows? But I mean, like, that's, I just want to highlight more of those things, like maybe even, working with, just like some smaller type of venue and just giving them the podcast type space. Because I feel as if, while Gigless itself, like there'll be, like, the quarantine's going to end at one point, and at one point we're gonna have our vaccinations, and I hope, and things are going to move forward. But the repercussions of what have happened, I feel like, are going to be a little bit longer.
Oh yeah,
so that's why
me personally, I don't know when gigs are gonna come back, but
I'm
not going to be in a enclosed air concert hall with absolutely no ventilation, with side to side sweaty metalheads for quite some time. I probably don't get shocked if I don't feel 100% comfortable, but with that, like, in the next 2 years, like, it probably will have to be like an outdoor open stage kind of gig, at least for me. Or, like, if I want to go see like Broadway or theater, like,
that's what I miss the most. Like,
I will have to be sitting. I'm okay with that, but I will have to be sitting like a few seats away from people. Like, there's got to be, like, I have to be in a bubble. You know?
I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, I think one of the challenges for me was, like, and moving forward, like, when I played, what I like to identify myself like as a musician, I see myself as a gigging musician. I don't necessarily like ascribe to like one type of genre. It's whenever somebody needs me for something, because I just like the guitar. The music, of course, is important, but playing the guitar and expressing myself musically, like, that's who I am as a musician. And I've done many, many musicals, and those are my favorite. And I'm just hoping that things come back, because, like, that's, like, aside from me getting my gig, which would be great to have an input, but the the theater gigs and stuff like that, there's just so many people that get involved in that, and the space and the venue and stuff, and how do we share it? But that's what I'm hopeful for. I feel as if we're getting there, and things are a lot, things are moving forward. Once Broadway, I feel, is open, then I would feel like open and safe, I feel as if that's when gigs are really going to start coming back, when it's like, okay, like we can have this many people, because if it works there, it could work anywhere, you know.
Right. I mean, drag queens have been doing a great job of like doing the drive-in drag race
Oh yeah.
kind of thing. So like kudos to them
Oh
because
yeah, the
they are,
ingenuity is
yeah, the
so great.
ingenuity is excellent. And like I said, like I know that there's hope for it. There's definitely like some kind of positive event on the horizon. But for right now, I'm still at that point where it's like, I haven't gotten my vaccination yet. I haven't I'm not eligible yet.
Mhm.
And because I'm not in the age group and I don't have a prior condition
Mhm.
that would endanger me. So like I just gotta wait.
Yeah, no, I'm hopeful for the opportunities, you know, and it's good because there just so many people getting it that's why there's a delay.
Oh yeah,
You
I'm
know, like
hoping
it's not like, oh, because of you know, like the space or the people. It's like, no, like the doors are open, the pop-up sites come up all the time, but it's like so many people are taking the precautions for it. So I'm hopeful that, you know, things start coming around,
all
you
right.
know. So I think we're almost towards the end. Is there any like closing thoughts, Remi, you just about Gigless that you want to share as the host?
As the host, I'm just so happy that we got as many views. I'm so happy that people listen. How about
Oh
that?
yeah,
Like
yeah. It's like,
I'm like, even if it's one listen or like 10, I'm still shocked. Like I'm so happy that people are like actively listening and that
yeah,
so many people have hit me up directly and just being like, wow, we really love this. Like the production is really high. Like I had one of my aunts who's a nurse uh call me and be like, you're not doing in-person interviews, right? I was like, no, like it's all through Zoom and paying audio engineers and it makes it sound amazing. But like,
I'm
so I'm
screaming
just
while I do it, guys. It's not like I actually know what I'm doing. I'm just like, I
I'm
have no
just
idea what
so
I'm doing.
listen, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity that we could share these stories with you guys and that you guys like are still tuning in and listening. And next week we'll have another episode for you to wrap up season 2. And then for season 3, we're also, thinking about who we're going to be bringing in already, what the stories are going to be. Because now, like, people are still gigless, quote unquote, but they're still now because things are reopening and, people are spending money again, like, there's more things coming through.
Mhm. We want to hear your stories. You know,
Yeah, we want to hear stories.
invite your friends. You know,
Invite your creative friends.
yeah, yeah. Um, you know, as the producer, I just want to keep on improving the quality of Gigless. I want the reach to go out further, and you know, it's been such a joy that I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. And I love your stories. Like they're just, you know, they're wonderful. This is a passion project. You know, Remi and I, we we knew that from the beginning. It's like we want to give back to a community that's giving us so much, and
And
you
we're
know,
also
we want to
open to
help.
learning.
Oh yeah,
you know
yeah,
we're also open to learning because one of the reasons why we stopped season 1, like I want to say June we stopped. That was when we capped it. Well, that was because of everything that was happening with these social justice movements, and it was like, now is not our time
yeah,
to speak at this
mm,
point.
yeah.
There are other things going on right now that people, especially like artists of color, and are focusing on and being impacted by, not just on top of a pandemic. So we took that pause for that reason. And then sometimes, like, with season 2, personal things came up, or, just like we are it. It's literally just me and Dane. There's no production crew.
No,
There's no
no,
agency.
we have an intern.
Now we have an intern.
Now we
Yes,
have
her
an
name is
intern.
assistant Devon
Assistant
Gohde.
to the regional manager.
Yeah, exactly. Devon's been helping us out with a few
Welcome to the
things.
team.
Welcome to the team. But like before Devon, even, there is no other than Devon. there's no one else, and we're still
Blue.
learning how to navigate with, you know,
We had Blue.
we had my dog interrupting every single episode. You can hear her if you listen real close.
we need an appreciation post.
My dog. But yeah, that's I'll always be in gratitude of this of like how much love this project has received and how it's all been positives. I think there's been like really no negativity towards it, really no issues with it, like and that's what I could have asked for.
Yeah. And I also want to say just the biggest shout out. Truly the driving force of Gigless is you, Remi. So I, as the the other part of the project, I just want to say you've been doing a fantastic job of everything and pushing it forward. This is truly Gigless it's our baby, but you take care of it the most, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you put in for Gigless, and it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Oh, thank you so much, Dane. And I just want to say this to literally everybody out here. Dane is one of the hardest people you'll ever meet. Like one of the hardest working people. Yes, physically hard. You can bounce a dime off him and that will ricochet into a wall.
Shredded.
But yeah, he's like Sanic.
Sanic.
He's one of the fucking hardest working. I just want to say this, like the level of selflessness that you had to actually, like, you're my friend and you have those talents with audio engineering, but the fact that you actually said yes and that we made this thing together, I
was forced.
I laugh because a couple, like, all good vibes here, but many years ago when we were teens, like before Dane and I like even truly like our friendship grew to the point as it was, I was advised by someone, an ill advisor, to say, don't be friends with him. He's, no good could ever come of a friendship with him. Here we are, like how many, like close to 30 episodes later, an article.
Oh yeah,
a freaking a writer's prize.
No, but that's Gigless. That's Gigless. There's so many things we've done: concerts together, events, fundraisers, and shit like that. We help each other
we've done a lot of things.
We've supported.
I think that Gigless is like both our names on it.
Yeah.
Together, just us.
Yes.
Starting it up. So
if Gigless gets 1 million followers, I will tattoo a microphone on my ass.
You hear that, boys and girls, and everyone else in between? Subscribe, because a tattoo artist, and she would love to tattoo a microphone on Dane's ass.
Yeah. We only do local stuff here, man.
We only do local stuff, and she is local.
Yes. All right. Well, until the next episode, thank you guys for everything. And
seriously, thank you guys for everything. I hope that you're enjoying this episode right now in the sun and enjoying the springtime, because
socially distancing
because the winter is gone.
Yes.
And spring
is here.
There you go. It's a new year. We got there's a new hope.
Yes.
And
yeah. So well, thank you guys. Remi, send us off, man. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how you do it.
So thank you so much for listening to this special episode of the Giggles podcast. We really do appreciate, from the bottom of our hearts and our souls, you guys listening and making this such a great, rewarding project. Gigless is 110% for you listeners. It is for the guests. It is for you. This is a community project. If you or a loved one or a friend, anybody that you know who lost their creative gigs and income due to the COVID-19 pandemic. If you know anyone who had to go through that, right? You can send them over to us. Our DMs are literally open. We are ready to collaborate. And Dane will be posting the link in the show notes to our new Patreon and what the awesome goodies that you guys will be getting when you subscribe to us through Patreon. So again, thank you so much for listening. Share this with a friend. Email us or not email us, but DM us about how you felt about these last 2 seasons. Let us know. We'll answer it.
Share
Yeah.
the stories
Share
of
the
your
stories,
fellow
share-
musicians and artists.
Exactly. So thank you all so much.
We love you.
We love you
Yes, from 6 feet apart.
from 6 feet apart.
Thank you for listening to the Gigless Podcast, hosted by Remi Leibovic and produced by Dane Wagner. The song used for our intro and outro is Beach Walk by Unicorn Heads. If you enjoyed this podcast, head over to our social media pages on Instagram at Gigless Podcast and our website, giglesspodcastblog.wordpress.com. There, you can find out more about the artist, contact the host and producer, and find out more about our schedule. Thank you.